Okay, next we're going to take a big step. We're going to put our box together, the actual plastic box that makes our Crowbox a box. And there's a lot of cementing involved in this, so you can see I have a bunch of applicator tips here that are clean and ready to use, just so I don't have to stop once I get started. Before we get started, though, I want to take a couple parts that we've had drying and go back to them. We'll need this, which is the base plate of the machine. You might remember it as the first thing that we cemented together. And we'll also need our two rails, which we cemented these round spindles to. These parts should have been sitting around for at least several hours. Overnight is good, but several hours is fine. I think we've done enough steps since the last time we messed with these that I think they probably had time to dry. All I'm doing at this point is just taking out the machine screws that we put in. And the interesting thing about this is that they might be a little harder to remove than they were to put in, so I'm going to have my pliers for this job, just in case any of the cement got into the plastic holes and hardened onto the threads of the screws. It's a pretty common thing. It's not a big deal. If it happens, just use pliers to help you get the nuts off of the machine screws. I'm going to speed this up so you don't have to watch it all. And there we go. My screws and nuts are all out, and I'm going to make sure that these are not in my way here because we're going to use a little bit more space on this step than we usually do because we're going to have the whole box and all four of its panels, side panels over here. So I just don't want it to be clanging into any of this hardware. So I'm going to clear my area a little bit. So alright, so we have the rails, and as we discussed before, the rails, if the front of the machine is facing me here, the rails are going to install this way with these spindles on the outside and running front to back inside the machine. We'll get to those in a little bit. Here's our base plate. If you try to flex it, if you just gently try to flex it, you can tell how much stronger it's been made by having this smaller piece reinforced to it. I will like to point out that the part that we've cemented on is the bottom. So if you have the base plate sitting on your work area here, you should have a smooth, flat surface facing the ceiling, facing up, and the part that's sticking out should face down. And that's the part that later we'll discuss how we might use that if we wish to mount the Crowbox to a pole. So before we can actually do this step, we need to do some prep work on the rails because the rails are going to help us create the right shape in our box and make sure that when we're finished, everything fits together nicely. So we need to have both of our rails ready, along with this part, which is the servo plate. From the clear sheet of parts, and it's got a pretty obvious appearance. It has a cutout in the middle with some kind of like bear ears or mouse ears at the top there, and a combination of rectangular and round holes cut in it. So we'll need that later on in this step. We also need what we call the rail lowers, which are these long thin strips that have 4 holes on them. They have a hole in the center, 2 holes to the right, and 1 hole to the left. And we're going to be screwing these onto our rails because they are needed to support the sliding lid. And here's the sliding lid from a previous step. I still have my masking tape on here to protect it from getting hit by strands of cement. So I'm going to peel that tape off now. And this is also an interesting thing. You can examine these from the underside examine these slots that we flooded with cement earlier and see how now they are, or they should be, completely sealed with plastic, and now the lid won't suffer from having any water drip through it if it gets wet, which it will. It's one of the topmost parts of the machine, so if it were to rain or snow, definitely this lid will get wet, and now we're able to keep that water from getting into the food. The reason I mention the sliding lid is because once we assemble our box, we're going to lower the rails into it, and then we're going to lower the sliding lid between the rails, and that way some of our critical moving parts that need to live inside the box, we'll make sure that we have space for them as the cement of the box itself dries and makes a permanent bond. We'll know for sure that everything will fit together and be aligned the way that we want it. So these are the supplies we'll need for that. For now, we can take the servo plate and the sliding lid and set them out of reach and talk about putting on the rail lowers. So if you hold the rail lowers, or sorry, if you hold a rail, you'll notice that only the lower line of holes has 4 holes in it. There's only 3 at the top. So that is where our lower rail will go, onto here. So we're going to be screwing the rail lowers to the rails. To do that, we're going to use 8mm machine screws and nuts. So what we want to do is make sure we install the rail to the flat side, or sorry, install the rail lower to the flat side of the rail. That means we're going to keep our little cemented spindle here to the outside. And I'm going to use 8mm machine screws for this. So this is easier if you just get a couple in first, just enough so that the rails don't fall back apart. I like to, for what we're doing right now, which is not final assembly, I like to put a machine screw through the frontmost hole, the rearmost hole, and just the middle hole, and I skip this one here for now. We're going to need to put a much longer screw through that later anyway, so for what we're doing now, it's easier if there's not one in that hole at all. And just tighten those screws. So again, what we should be looking at is on the outside of the rail where the circles are cemented in place, we only see the heads of machine screws. The back side is where the nuts are, and make sure that that rail is installed to the lower set of holes, and these upper holes they'll remain vacant for this step. The procedure for the second rail is exactly the same, so I'm just going to kind of speed through that one. Okay, so now that we have the rails prepared, we'll just put those aside in the same place where we are storing the sliding lid for the time being, and so that way we can fetch all of those things at the same time. So that I can go over the other panels of the Crowbox. So all of these are going to be in the solid colored sheet, and they're all large parts, so I think they're pretty easy to find. The most remarkable is this one that has a whole bunch of cutouts in it. This is the front panel of the machine, and I want to warn you, as I have before with certain parts, that when you go to peel this one, you've got a fairly flexible, somewhat vulnerable strip of plastic here. So when you're peeling your protective paper off your acrylic parts, just be very careful. One way to protect this is to keep it flat on your desk and lift a corner of the protective paper, and then just use a pencil or something to roll that protective paper off. It works really well, and if you were able to keep this flat on your work surface while you do that, there's far less of a chance that you'll squeeze this strip of plastic here and potentially snap it. If you snap it, which I don't expect you'll have this problem, but if it does get snapped, you'll need to cement it back in place. And like some of the other vulnerable parts that we discussed, it's only vulnerable right now when this is just a flat part on its own. Once we cement everything together, we won't have to worry about things like that any longer. But this is the faceplate, and you'll need that one. The machine's rear plate is the same size as the faceplate. It has tabs on two sides, slots at the bottom, and some vertical slots cut here. And that's the rear plate of the machine. The two side plates are similar but not identical. And they're pretty obvious to spot. They have nothing but slots around all three of the sides, tabs at the top, two holes in one corner, and you'll notice that one of them has a slot cut out of it for a part that we need to install later. So when we're installing the side panels, these pairs of holes are toward the front of the machine. So if the front of the machine were facing me right now, I would want my side panels installed in this way, with the screw holes here, the pair of screw holes at the top edge and towards the front. And with the front of the machine facing me, the side panel that has a slot cut out of it, that's going to be on my right side. So that's how we're going to organize the panels. Now, all of these panels cement to their neighbors and also to the base plate. So I'm going to adjust the camera here for a higher angle view so that we can see everything a little more clearly. And then we'll talk through the install process before I actually do it. You can watch me do it, then back up and then do it for yourself. So I'm just going to adjust the camera back in a second. There, this high angle, slightly higher angle camera view will give us a little bit more view of our work area here, because this step takes a little bit of space, so I just try to make it easier to see everything. To get set up for this, I'm going to take the base plate and making sure that the plate that we cemented to it for reinforcement is facing down, put this on my work area and turn it like this. And that is with the edge that has only two tabs on it that are really far apart. That's my left side, or it'll be on my left as I work. I'll take the machine, the rear panel, which as we discussed is the one that has these two vertical slits and a pair of holes in the middle. I'm going to place that on my right hand side. The machine's faceplate, and it doesn't matter which way you have it, I'm going to put that on the left side of my base plate. Then we'll discuss these two side panels, which are similar but not exactly the same. So as we discussed before, one of these has a slot cut out of it, and that is going to end up being on the right hand side of the machine. So we'll put that aside for just a minute, and we'll take the other side panel, and with the slotted edge facing down and the two holes in our top left corner, just set that right over here on the other side of the base plate, which means that this panel here is going to go closest to me, and we're going to orient that so that these this pair of holes is down and to the left as I have them here. So that is how we're going to set up the panels for cementing, and that this way everything will be kind of where we want it as we go through and assemble. And if I didn't mention it already, this is a really involved step. It isn't super difficult, but there are a lot of steps to it. So I do recommend that you watch me go through this one time, maybe a couple times till you feel pretty confident, and then go through and follow along. I'll try to remember to talk through as much as I can as I work. Don't forget, if I didn't mention, you do need masking tape nearby. We're going to use that to strap together the pieces. You might remember earlier I asked you to grab the servo plate along with your rails. There's one more part that you need, and it's this horizontal support. It just has a tab at either end. It's just a thin strip of acrylic with some tabs on it. It is similar to these two parts, which are used for something else altogether. The part we're looking for is quite a bit longer than them. To make sure you have the right part, just compare its width to the servo plate. They're the same width. So once you have the beam that is the same width as the plate, you know you've got what you need. And keep that with your rails. We'll be using that in a little bit. Pay careful attention to the orientation of the parts here. I raised the camera a bit so we can hopefully see everything a little bit better. Just remember that the side panel with the slot is the one that needs to be nearest to you. So I'm going to get ready to cement, and what I'm going to do in cementing is to my machine's rear panel, which is the part that's over here to the right, I'm going to put a bead of cement in between these slots, and I'm also going to put a bead of cement extending from the edge of the slots to the end of the piece of acrylic. I'm going to go a little heavy on cement here. I know some's going to squish out, but I want to make sure that I've got enough in there to give me the bond that I want. I'm also going to put cement onto the top of these 3 tabs along the right edge of my base plate. I'm going to run a long bead of cement along this long strip of the faceplate, and also put a little bead on the outside of these tabs at either end, or slots rather, and I'm going to cement the top of these tabs here. And that's all the cement I'm going to need for the first step, which is the step where I'm going to install the front and back panels and then tip this on its side so that we can get the right side panel on and then the left side panel. So here we go. So I'm going to apply my cement here in between the tabs or the slots, here and here. I want to see that bead. I want it to have some shape to it. So I'm going to put the cement down slowly and a little thick, and then I'll move to doing the tabs here. And I'm going to work a little bit quickly here because I want the cement to be as liquid as possible while I'm going. So I'm just going to get on with this. But I will stop to cap my tube just to protect that. Alright, so I will tip this base plate and slot it into the rear panel. I got some squish there, but I kind of want to see that. Then I lift this up and put it on my work surface. Those two are tacked together well enough to stay. Using my right hand here, I'm going to tip that assembly to my right so that I can get the faceplate into its tabs. And once I have that, I'll push those parts inward this way just a little bit to make sure the cement is in all the spaces. And then I'm going to get myself another applicator tip onto my cement tube. I'm going to go through and put cement in between all of the tabs that are sticking up. So all the low points around this exposed edge here on all 3 sides. Again, I'm going to go with a pretty good amount of cement to make sure that I've got my coverage. Not a ridiculous amount, but you want that bead to be standing up a little bit, to have a rounded appearance at its top edge, not just a thin swipe of cement. And you don't have to go super fast, but do be prompt, but not fast enough to make bad mistakes with your cement. There you go. Now I'll tip this side panel and lower it. Now we're still a little bit wobbly, so you may have to finesse this till it goes together. Make sure your 2 holes are at this bottom left corner relative to your position, and then you can gently tip this to where the other side is facing you. And from here I like to work with the base plate facing me, and I'll go through and again cement the between the tabs on all three of these exposed edges. Now, I'm noting that the front of the machine is to my left here, the front panel. So I want to make sure that when I apply this side panel, those two holes here are away from me and to my left. And I like to start on the base tabs and then just work everything together. Just if you do press on things, just use light pressure. So now that I have that, and I actually have a box now, which is pretty cool, right? I'm going to chase around the inside to reinforce that joint between the base plate and the three side panels, the rear panel, the left, and the right. I'm not going to go around the front panel with this. There is a part later that needs to fit at our front edge panel, so that's why I don't want any extra cement there for now. So I just lost my applicator tip down in the machine. So I'm going to grab some scrap plastic here and push that to the outside. So I'm going to have an ugly spot on the bottom of mine because I shot my applicator tip off. But that'll be fine. So now that I have that, we're going to take our rails and remembering that the wide side of the rails is at the front of the machine and that the spindle should face outward, I am going to slot my servo plate right there into this rail, and right there into that one. Now, the front edge of the rails have a tiny tab at the top and a wider one at the bottom. The tiny tab at the top goes into these slots in the front of the faceplate, and then I just rotate that away from me until they drop into place. And then the rails go inside just like that. I'll take a quick look at the front of the machine and make sure these two slots where I have my thumbs, make sure we can see a tab in those. We are not going to use any cement on the rails, on the servo plate, or between the rails and the box. The rails are designed to be removable for maintenance, so we do not want those guys to be cemented into place. So the next thing I'm going to do is take my sliding lid and lower it between my rails inside the machine, and then this thin reinforcing strip, slot it on one side, and then just gently deform the rail and get it to slot on the other like that. Again, no cement here. Now we're going to start strapping with our masking tape. So I'm going to pull a strip of tape off, and right here where this rail is, this horizontal support, I'm going to apply my tape on one side and then just very gently stretch the tape and tape the right side. We're just wanting to put a little bit of pressure on the lid, the sliding lid, but not a ton of clamping pressure. And then I'm going to do this the same toward the front of the machine. Just apply tape to one side, stretch it across, and strap the two sides of the rails together. I want to be able to move this lid still. So if the lid is really hard to slide, the tape might be a little too tight. And then the next step, I'm going to tape the back plate of the machine to the front plate across each of the rails. So here, I'll put it on the back, and then letting it run across that rail. I'm going to pull the front plate gently toward the rear and apply the tape. And again, we're not trying to really strap it together super tightly. That's not even really possible with paper tape. Do the same over the other rail. There. Now, once we have that done, I'm going to do the same thing at the front. I'm going to put a tape strap here where this top slot is, and here where this bottom slot is, and run it across the machine. So I'll need a pretty long strip of tape for that. And I'll apply it to one side here. Stretch it across, and I'm going to use both hands. In this case, I do want a little bit of clamp. I want some pretty good clamping pressure, so I'm going to push the two side panels toward each other and then apply that tape while I have them squeezed a little bit. So you can kind of hear the tension of the tape. Do that again at the lower part of the front edge. Again, squeezing the box, just kind of firmly, not obscenely. Again, you can just hear that little bit of tape tension. We're going to repeat that process around the back. Now, if you end up in a case like I have here where I've got a nice tight right side, but my left side is a little baggy, just remove the left side and re-tension it until you get it the way you want it. And the goal here is just to make sure that our plastic parts are squished together nice and firm with the cement inside of them. And I will mention something right now that I forgot to mention before we started, which hopefully means that you are watching this the first time without actually doing it yourself. There is a pair of slots cut in the rear panel. You can see them better here. You want those, when you're holding the machine with the front of the machine facing you, you want to make sure when you put the back panel on, those two slots are in your back right corner. They're part of the system that holds the electronics sled in place and lets us add and remove our electronics. So now that we have that taped, I'm going to do one more thing just to help with strength. I'm going to take a roll of tape, adhesive side up, set one corner on it, one edge rather, in this case the left, and let that run under the machine. The reason I'm doing it this way is because we can't tip the machine over or our sliding lid will fall out of place and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to use our familiar strapping procedure just to strap the two side panels together over the base plate, which is just going to help us guarantee a nice bond with the base plate too. Kind of see what I've done there. That tape extends under the machine, pulls those two side panels toward each other across the bottom. We are going to be coming back later and doing some reinforcing on the box. We need to get down these vertical seams in all four corners, but not right now. Right now what we want to do is set this aside for overnight. We really want to make sure that before we go to the next steps and and fiddle with the box anymore, that we've got a nice strong box for that purpose. I'll remind you of that when we reach those steps, but we do have some things to do in the meantime that'll buy us that time, especially if you don't feel like stopping working right now. You'll just be able to work through some of this, but still I think you should leave this overnight for this cement to set up nicely. So as we review the shape that I've made here, you see the front of the machine with all those slots cut out. As we go around to the left side of the machine, you'll notice that these two holes are at the top edge and along the front of the machine. And on the other side, those two holes are at the top edge and along the front of the machine. The side panel with the slot cut out is on my right side when I'm facing the machine. And in the rear panel here, that pair of slots that are situated one above the other, those are in my right hand corner with the front of the machine facing me. So verifying that stuff now is a little bit late because this cement will have started to set up, and if we had to pull everything apart, we could probably do it, but it would be a little tough to get things back together. So because I'm recommending that you watch this video before you actually do the cementing, I thought it was a good time for me to discuss that. You can see how all of those things are in the places where they belong on this box. Again, as I said, it's a fairly involved step, not terribly difficult, but there's just a lot to it. So watch this again if you feel you need to before you actually do your cementing. I would say it's probably one of the most important steps that we have, given that we're building the actual box here. But that's how it goes. I'm going to put this aside, and tomorrow I'll do some more stuff with it, and so will you. But in the meantime, we have some other parts of the project we could get on.